So swimmers, and welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video, we're gonna do something so exciting because I finally get to share more challenge trackers with you. I've been working really hard in the background to make 4 brand new Sims challenge trackers. I still cannot believe the love that my previous challenge tracker video received. If you haven't seen that, feel free to go check it out because that's where I showcase the original 6 Notion trackers for Sims challenges. And I never ever expected so many of you to also love them as much as I do, but thank you all so much for that support. Because of that video, I now have a list of 56 challenge trackers to make. I'm gonna be completely frank with you. I'm not sure if I'm gonna make all of them because that's a lot of work and that will probably take me months, if it not be years. But I did prioritize a bunch of them that I saw mentioned a ton, and I'm definitely gonna do my best to at least get through like the most popular 20 to 25, because I think the fact that you guys love this as much as I do just shows that there's a need for these trackers, and I love sharing them with you and I love making them. So in today's video, I'm going to share 4 brand new ones. Also, if you're not subscribed to this channel, please make sure to do so because I will probably be releasing videos accordingly as I make more trackers. I kind of thought about waiting until I made more, maybe potentially 6 or 10 more, but then I realized these ones are all ready to go and I just want to share them with you because I know a lot of you have been wanting to use these. So I don't want to keep you guys waiting. However, I do plan on making more, and in the videos, I'll actually showcase how to use these trackers. So if you don't want to miss any of the upcoming ones and you want to like get a little tutorial on how to use the actual tracker, then this is your time to shine. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for all of the support on the previous video as well. And without further ado, let's actually dive into our first brand new tracker of today, which I think was actually the most requested by far, and that was the Disney Princess Legacy Challenge. So I made the most Disney dashboard that I could come up with. I made sure to include all of the princesses, and as you can see, I've been also trying to experiment a little bit with like new features that Notion releases over time. They recently added a new feature with charts. You'll probably see a bunch of those in the new trackers, not in all of them because some of them were made before that the charts feature was released, but it's kind of nice. I think this visual representation is much cuter than the other one that I made before, and it's actually pretty nice because the other one was like linked up quite difficult and it like took way more time for me to showcase the progress and it was harder to set up. But with this one, it's much easier. So you can just see if you're starting the tracker, if you're starting the challenge, you will see that you actually have 65 to-dos for this tracker. As always, you have your current generation at hand, so it is easy for you to quickly see which generation you're playing and what the goals are. And then very similar to any of the other challenge trackers that you've seen from me, if you click, you'll actually get a little page about your character. You can add your Sims picture if you want. There is like the original description that I copied from the original challenge, so they all have like a little quote and then like a little backstory. You can add all of the information about your Sims. If the challenge already gave like traits or an aspiration or a career, I've already filled it in for you. But in this challenge, actually the Disney one, a lot of this is empty, so a lot of this is up to you to decide what you want to do. So then I just left it empty so you can do that. Also, a big change that I made is now instead of having like a little tick box, I actually changed it to a proper status so that you can not just tick it off once you're done, but you can also put it into progress, which basically means that you can also, like, if you have a couple of things in progress, you can kind of keep track on the goals that you're working on right now for that generation. And then if you go back to your homepage, you can also see that you're working on 2 things and that you've already completed 2 things and that you still have 61 things that you need to do. That way, I think it is going to be more fun to like actually keep track of your progress rather than just the things that you've done already. So that was kind of my vision. So let me know in the comments down below if you like that, if you like that change, if you think it's a good one. I'm not sure if I'll like retroactively change all of the previous trackers to also have something like this because that's kind of like a lot of work, and I know a lot of you have already been using the tracker, so then like going back and having to update it and then you would have to manually copy all of your data is not an ideal situation. So I might leave those as they are, but I do think moving forward I will continuously make improvements to these trackers, and like you will see in later ones in this video that I've also made 2 that are way more complicated than a traditional tracker that I've made so far. I'm really like pushing myself to learn more about Notion to make something that is really easy for you to use, that really genuinely makes a difference in how you play your game. But this is the Disney one. It is now available on my shop. As always, all of these trackers are available for free. You can always decide to support if you want to, but please know there is never any expectation from my side that you do pay for these trackers. But if you want to, and for all of you who have done so in the past, thank you so incredibly much. That literally means the world. It is incredibly generous of you guys for wanting to support my efforts with content creation and with making these Notion templates. But if you want to download them for free, please know that they are for free for a reason, because I just want you guys to enjoy the game and like keep track of your challenges the way that I've been keeping track of them and having a lot of fun with it. So that's the Disney one. So let's go to the next one. The second one that was wildly requested was the Zodiac Legacy Challenge. I actually wonder if I picked the right one. I'm not gonna lie. If you search for Zodiac Legacy Challenge, there are a lot of them. There is a lot, but there's two different ones. We have the Zodiac Legacy and we have the Star Sign Legacy. This one is for the Zodiac one. I know there is a Star Sign one as well that obviously revolves around the same kind of subject or like the same concept for a challenge. It is a different one though, so I might make one for those later down the line as well. As you can see here, I'm still using the old challenge progress tracker because this was the first one that I made, and then Notion didn't have the chart feature yet. But again, it is very, very similar to what you've seen from any of my other trackers before. So you have like a little character page. As you can see, more things are filled in here because this challenge does actually tell you what traits, aspiration, and career to pick. And we also still have the tick box. I don't use the status field here just yet. Please also know that these things will like be evolving and some might be slightly different than others, but in the basic concept, it will be very recognizable and you can use it. And if you know a lot about Notion, feel free to like duplicate this to your own workspace and tinker around with new features and kind of like change how this works a little bit for yourself. But that's the Zodiac one, and I hope you guys like it. I think this one turned out really nicely. It is a relatively simple one. I think the Disney one is also relatively simple, but the next two are my, like, I think general pride and joy of Notion. I don't think I've ever made something this extensive, and I cannot wait to show you. The next two also require a little bit more explanation because these ones are very straightforward because they're just goal-oriented legacies. But there were two challenges that were highly requested that are not, technically both of them are not legacy challenges, and both of them don't go through like 10 generations with goals. And the first one being the Black Widow challenge. Because oh boy, so many of you requested for me to do a tracker for the Black Widow challenge, and I am truly honored. This is such an incredible challenge. I really, really love this one. To be honest, I wasn't even aware that this challenge was so extensive, but I think I've learned a lot. I learned a lot about the challenge, and I learned a lot about Notion with this one. And as you can see, it doesn't look as sexy or appealing as some of my other ones, but there's a reason for it, because as soon as you start playing it, this will start to look way better. But for any one of you who isn't familiar with the Black Widow challenge, like the formal Black Widow challenge, where you not just unalive your Sims in different ways, but you actually play through the challenge, there is an entire score system to this challenge, which will basically allow you to kind of maybe play through it multiple times and try to like even get a better high score than your previous round. Or it's very much a challenge that pushes you to play the game in a different way and like be strategic about your choices. So I have done a couple of things and I would love to walk you through what I've come up with. Of course, there is, as the most important thing, there is your challenge score. I will show you later how this works and how this will update, but basically you will be able to keep track of how much points you've scored so far and also at the end of your challenge. That means that if you're playing multiple runs to also kind of increase your own high score, you can like duplicate this dashboard again, and you can basically use it multiple times to keep track of all of your different scores. So if that's something that you enjoy, this would be your tracker for it. Then you can also keep track of how much money you have stolen per sim. So this will turn into like a little bar chart, which will show you like how much money you've stolen from each partner. And you'll have like a little chart that shows you how much money you have stolen in total. Because this is not necessarily related to the challenge itself, but I just think it is a lot of fun because a big part of the challenge is getting rich through stealing money from your dead Sims or like your dead partners. So this will like kind of give you an overview of how that works. Then here on the right hand side, we have a quick button to add a new partner. So as soon as you start dating someone, I'll click that in a second and show you what happens. There is actually the Black Widow scorecard, which I will show you how it works, but you don't necessarily ever need to open this card. It is here as a core database, but you don't ever need to click this and open it because basically anything you'll need is on this dashboard already. And then there is all the rules. This challenge does have some specific rules that are explained on the page that I didn't really fit into this tracker anywhere because there wasn't a logical place for it. So please make sure to read the rules of the original challenge before you start using this dashboard, because I think some of the things on this dashboard might make more sense if you've read the rules properly. So I made sure to have a quick link here so you can actually read them at all times. Then of course we'll have a place where you can keep track of your partners. So every single time you're going to click new partner here, it's actually going to create a new card, which will actually allow you to write your partner's name. So let's say that I was one of the partners. Unfortunately, I have passed. I was a victim of the Black Widow challenge. I was partner number 1. The reason I added a number is that way the partner sequence will actually line up in the order of correct partners that you've had in both of the graph and in the little database section where you can like see all of your partners, like the little gallery. You can actually keep track. So you can say that you haven't started this person. So you're like eyeing them. Let's say if you already know that at one point you're gonna want to marry Mortimer Goth, you can already add him and you can already say that's gonna be like my partner number 3, but I haven't really started dating him or working on like that marriage. You can say that you're in a relationship. You can actually say that you're already married to that person, or you can say that that person is dead and you've basically completed that partner. Sounds really weird to say, but I think I'm dead. I think that's my current status. We can say how much money we've stolen from me. I wasn't a very rich sim. We only stole 1,200 from me. I'm sorry, that's just me. Way of death is I definitely drowned in a pool. I think something that is good to know, I debated whether I wanted to make this a drop-down list with all of the Sims deaths in it. However, I decided not to, because that means that every single time there's an expansion pack that comes out and there's a new way of death added to the game, I would have to update this drop-down list and you would have to create a new copy of this challenge, or like new copy of this dashboard to track your challenge, which I don't think is very convenient. This way you can just write it yourself and you can still keep track of all of the deaths that you've had for your Sims, and you can still make sure that you pick a different one for every single Sim. But this way we don't, either of us have to keep the challenge tracker updated that way. You can also add a little photo. So let's make sure that there's a little photo of me. Obviously, that's not my Sim self. That's my actual self. That's my profile picture. But I'll show you why it's relevant to add a little photo of your Sim later. You can also write like the full name. So my actual full name is Rosanna. My traits, well, I don't have any traits. I have too many traits to list here, but basically what you can do is you can write everything about the Sim. And also for every Sim, there's like a couple of different steps that you need to do to complete that generation or that partner. So you need to have a wedding, you need to have a dinner party, you need to get caught cheating by that partner, and you actually need to have a grave. So let's say we completed all of this because I'm already dead. So we've done all of this. So this is how you keep track of a single partner. And now I'm going to show you how that represents in the actual dashboard. So in the dashboard, you can now see that you have stolen 1,200 simoleons from me. And you can actually see that here you can see row and you see 1,200. Obviously, if there is like a second partner, let's quickly add a second partner so I can show you what that second graph will look like. I don't know why, but this person is called Jimmy. Jimmy is very dead as well. And Jimmy was rich. We've stolen 200,000 simoleons from Jimmy. And Jimmy burned to death. And Jimmy doesn't even have a picture because we forgot to take it because Jimmy was irrelevant. As you can see now that you stole 1,200 from me and 200,000 from Jimmy. And in total, this is how much money you've stolen. You can see that a little sliver was for me and all the rest was from Jimmy. So that's how this part will update. And then also you can see here is me and here's Jimmy. If you've given Jimmy a picture, like we've done for me, this will update and you can like have a little gallery of all of your dead husbands. You can also decide to actually add a picture of their grave. So you can kind of get creative with whatever picture you want to add here to create your little own gallery of dead exes. Now that we've covered all of that, I think it is time to get to the scoring of this challenge, and the scoring isn't super easy. So I tried to make it as easy as possible because during this challenge, there's a couple of things. You can either get points during the gameplay for like things that you're doing that will give you positive points. You can do things during gameplay that will actually deduct points from your total because you actually failed to do something. There is a point or like a score balance at the end of the challenge. So once you've completed the goal of the challenge, you will actually be able to kind of like tally your end score. And then there's 3 different levels that you can play this challenge at. There is a normal level, a specialist level, and a legendary level. And if you play on specialist or legendary, it's completely up to you. It's basically just making it more difficult for yourself. You can actually get even more points because you can do certain things that will give you even more points at the end of the challenge. So I tried to translate everything that you can get scores for into a simple button. So during your gameplay, if you have a party with a silver medal or higher, you can click this once. If you have a new color ghost, so let's say your ghost is happy and you haven't seen a green ghost, you can actually add that too. But let's say you also had a partner that died naturally. Unfortunately for you, you weren't able to unalive them, so that's going to give you minus points. So it says during gameplay, minus points. Let's click that too. And then at the end of your challenge, you actually reached charisma level 10. You actually reached cooking level 10, but you never threw a dinner party. So that's going to actually deduct points because that's a negative thing. What will happen is your total score will automatically update with all of the things that you've clicked. And if you ever feel like, ah, crap, I clicked something wrong, or how is my score built up, you can actually scroll down and you can see your score log, which will show you that you've had a party with a silver medal, which gives you 400 points. It actually shows you that you saw a new color ghost, which will give you 300 points. But it also shows you that you never threw a single dinner party, which will actually give you a deduction of 100 points. You also had a natural death, which will give you a deduction of 300 points. If you then realize, oh, actually, hold on, I did throw a dinner party because I actually got a silver medal for it, you can actually click on the little menu next to it and just delete it, and then your score will update automatically to represent your current score. So what you can do is during your gameplay, you can keep track of all of your partners, and you can kind of like give yourselves the scores by clicking on this little button here. And then at the end of your challenge, you can actually also click all of the relevant buttons. So for instance, end of challenge scoring on the specialist level means that if you've completed the serial romantic aspiration and you click that, you actually get quite some points for it. That's 2,000 points that you'll get for that. If you have completed both specialist level achievements, which means that you've completed both the serial romantic aspiration and you've completed the challenge before becoming an elder. So if you clicked both of these, you also get to click the third one, which gives you an additional 3,000 points. So as you can see, this is how the scoring works. I tried to keep it very straightforward and simple. You can also see your score at, like the built up between normal level and specialist level. So you can kind of see if you're playing this challenge multiple times, where your scores are coming from. And maybe in one run, you actually decided to focus on the specialist level and you actually got a lot of points from that, but you almost never had any points during gameplay. And maybe during another one, you've had way more normal level points and less specialist level points. So that's my vision. That was kind of what I was going for this challenge tracker. I hope it makes sense. I genuinely tried to translate this into an easy to use dashboard so you can easily keep track of your score, because as I was making this, I realized how much of a nightmare it must be to keep track of this in like a little booklet or something. So I really genuinely tried to make this look much better on the Notion page than it would ever look in a notebook, to really hopefully give you something that is going to add any value to your gameplay. Now that I've made sure that the Black Widow dashboard is clean again, I'm going to show you the last one, which was one that was requested so many times as well, and that's the tiny town tracker. And I really hope that I've done this challenge justice, because I love the concept of this challenge so much. And I really hope that I figured out something that makes sense for you to track. So let me actually show you the tracker. So for the tiny town, I was again faced with a huge challenge of, this is not a traditional 10 generation legacy challenge with goals. It is a completely new type of creative challenge made by Deligracy. If you have never heard of the Tiny Town Legacy Challenge, I highly recommend you check it out. It is so much fun. This is one of those challenges that I genuinely feel like speaks volumes about the creativity of the Sims community of coming up with something like this. But I try to make a tracker that is actually going to help you keep track of the most difficult part of this challenge, and that is probably, or at least what I figured, the tiny town funding. So the idea behind this challenge is that you start with one sim on a really big lot. They don't have a house, and you kind of play rags to riches style, where you build their house as you go along in the challenge. All of the sims are already pre-made, so you can download them from Deligracy's gallery. And then once you are, let's say you start with Frank Stem, you actually have to make money by flower arranging and gardening. And as soon as you have enough money to build them a little house, they have like a little plot on the 64 by 64 lot already, and you have to build a house for them over there. And as soon as their house is finished, you get to actually move in a second sim. And that's where the challenge technically begins when it comes to keeping track of your funds, because it basically means that you're going to have two sims, but you're only allowed to start building, let's say, Beatrice's house as soon as Beatrice has enough money to do that. So Deligracy actually recommends that you keep track of all of their funds in a little notebook to the side, or that you use the for rent pack to actually split them up into separate rentals. I would highly recommend, if you're going to split up the lot into separate rentals so that you're technically only playing with one sim at a time, you don't really need this tracker, because the game will basically split up all of the household funds for you. And I think that is the easiest way to keep playing this challenge. However, I can also recommend that might make it a little bit boring because you're only playing with one sim at a time. So if you want to experience the full joys of playing with various different sims on one lot and them actually having like a communal space and everything, I think it is better to play this challenge without for rent or without assigning different rental units and actually playing it with 7 sims on the lot. But then you can keep this tracker aside for you to keep track of all of their funds. So let me show you how it works. So I've already added all of the sims and their information information in here. If you click, it will actually open a card, and you can also select the move-in order. So you can say this was the first sim that you started with, second, etc. And that way the tracker will like organize your little overview in the right order of sims that you moved them into. And also it will help all of the things in the background kind of like know when a sim moved in. It's not too much for you to worry about. Just make sure that you set up the order of like, this was your first sim on the lot or your fourth sim on the lot, etc. Also, as soon as you've completed them, you can tick them off. So if like their full house is done and built, you can tick them off. I will show you what happens once you do that, because if you see here, now you have 7 sims in total, which means that you've completed one of them, which is Cyprus, and you have 6 of them to go. So this is like your challenge progress, basically. So now that we've covered like just the very bare bones basic challenge progress, let me show you, because I technically built almost like an economy system into Notion. So you can keep track of the total funds of the town, you can keep track of a sim's individual funds, and you can also keep track of how the bills are being paid. Because as soon as you have one big pot of money for all of your sims, they're also going to collectively pay bills. So what I did is I made a little tracker for your sim's wallet. They will have an account balance, which is basically all the money that they have in total. So like of the bigger sum that you see in game, this account balance will reflect your personal sim's account. And then you have a transaction list, which is very similar to the event log or like the score log of the Black Widow challenge. But basically what it will show here is all of the transactions that are related to that specific sim. So on your sim card, you will be able to actually keep track of your own sim's funds. You can also keep track of their traits, their aspiration, their relationship status, their career, any remarks. And of course, there's a little space for you to write your sim's backstory. If you're a storyteller, you'll probably have a whole backstory of what happens to this sim in your game. And you can write it down here to kind of keep track of everything that is going on. Then on the main dashboard, you can also see the tiny town funds actually should represent the number that you're seeing in your game. If you're keeping track of all the expenses correctly, then this number here should be the same as the big number of simoleons that you see at the bottom of your screen. But in this one, you're going to be able to see the built up between different sims. So you're going to see how much of that total funds belongs to Cyprus, how much of that total funds belongs to Azure, etc. So let's actually take a look at how this works. I've added a nice quick button to add expense or income, and I will show you how that will translate to all of the other things that I've shown you just now. So let's quickly add something. So let's say Cyprus actually sold some paintings, and that gave us 1,350 simoleons, and that was Cyprus. So let's make sure that you have to set up the person correctly, otherwise this won't work. Then we also actually built Cyprus's first little home. It's not much, it's just a couple of walls, but that cost us 500. And you'll see, very important here, you're gonna have to type minus 500 because that was, you paid something. That was like a minus transaction. That was also for Cyprus. Then, because Cyprus doesn't need much, that first home of 500 simoleons, that's gonna be enough for him. We will consider Cyprus's home to be done. He's ticked off as complete. So we're gonna move on to Azure. And Azure is actually gonna be our second sim to move in. It's not completed. We're actually actively working on Azure's money. Azure is actually selling, what did she sell? What is her skill? Her skill is painting. She also sold painting, which is gonna, she's a master painter already. So she sold that for 4,000 simoleons. And then you're gonna give it to Azure who, and there we go. Now the total amount of your town is actually 4,850, of which a little tiny bit is from Cyprus. He only has 850 simoleons, and Azure actually has 4,000. However, we're gonna build the first house for Azure as well, and her house is gonna be 3950 because she's basically gonna spend all of her money on her first house. So as you can see, there is now 900 left in the tiny town funds. Like this should be your total amount of simoleons on your like Sims bank account. As you can see now, Azure all of a sudden only has 50 simoleons left, and Cyprus has 850 left. If you want to see that on his own card, you can actually see his own little log. So he sold paintings and he built his first home, and he now has 850 simoleons left. Then you can also go to Azure's card and you can see that she actually sold paintings for 4K, but she also paid quite some money and she now has 50 simoleons left. The only downside of this system is that when your bills come into the town, you have to split them amongst the citizens that are currently living there and have to add them as separate expenses. But considering you only pay bills once a week, I think this is not going to be too bad. So let's say that you get a bill of 300 simoleons and you're currently living there with Cyprus and Azure. You're going to have to add 2 expenses. So that's going to be bills week 1. Let's copy that. That's going to be minus 150 for Cyprus, and that's going to be minus 150 for Azure as well. And then you've paid your 300 bills, and you'll also see that means that Azure technically has 0 or like minus 100 money, which is kind of interesting, but because that way you will allow your Sims to like borrow money from each other. And that means that Azure is like on a negative 100, which means that you can't build a house for her. Like you're probably going to have to sell something. And that way you can kind of also monitor which of your Sims are like in the plus and which of your Sims are in the minus. And this is kind of the way that I figured out the town's economy. Your total amount that way will continue to be correct, and you will still see which Sims has how much money, which will allow you to then figure out if you are ready to build a house for them and like how much money you can spend on that first house that you're building for them. So I hope like this makes sense. I know it's like specifically the paying bills part is not the most perfect solution, but I couldn't figure out any other solution, and I still think this is much easier than trying to keep track of it on paper. If you ever make a mistake and you like accidentally add something to the database, like an empty one, or you make a mistake in it or a typo, you can always go into the database, which is called the Tiny Town Money Tracker, and that will basically give you like a full list of all of the entries that you've made. And then you can always like select multiple. Let's say, oh crap, the bills, that was wrong, they shouldn't be in here. You can always delete them, and then it should go back to 900 in total. And if you go back to the dashboard, it goes back to 900 in total, and Azure has 50 simoleons again. So that way you can always go back if you ever need to. But this is basically the concept of the Tiny Town Tracker. Let me know if that's like the thing that you guys wanted to keep track of. Obviously, you're keeping track of your Sims, and you're keeping track of one of the biggest challenges in the tiny town, which is the funding, and you're keeping track of whether you've finished their house. A last thing that I just realized that I didn't show you is on the little Sim card, there's also a place where you can add a house picture. You can even add multiple, like you can add different files from like the different stages of their house if you want to, but that way you can even keep track of what their house looked like and what their house maybe looked like in the first version, second version, and like the final version. And you can kind of keep like a little archive of what, you know, basically your Sims tiny town journey. Let me know if this is what you expected for the Tiny Town Challenge. I hope that you like it. I hope that you like all of the challenges. I know that this video is a bit longer because 2 of them required a little bit more explanation, but I'm hoping that's a good thing, and that I made challenge trackers for challenges that were otherwise difficult to play and now hopefully are a little bit easier to play. Like I said, I fully plan on making more trackers. I think one of my next ones is the Ultimate Decades Legacy Challenge, because that's one that has been requested a ton as well, but that is a huge project because that's one of those legacy challenges that is almost as big as the pack legacy. I think maybe even bigger, because there's so many generations and so many like visual elements that are going to be really important to that one. But know that that one is very high on my list. I have all of the other ones from the comments written down as well, but let me know if there is like one that if you had to pick one, let me know in the comments down below, because I'll use the comments on this video to kind of help me narrow down which ones are the most important. So feel free to also go check the comments on the previous video, and if there's like one that you see mentioned a bunch that you want to like highlight or emphasize, please do let me know. Again, all of the links to my shop and to all of the templates is in the description box down below. If you like this video, or if you've been enjoying my legacy challenge trackers, feel free to share this video, like this video, and subscribe to my channel, because all of those things really help in supporting my effort as a content creator and allowing me to make multiple of these trackers for you in the future. With all of that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Bye everyone.